Yeah, I'm 90% sure that I've probably run into you.
Oh, I'm sure you
in
probably
that
have.
scene. Like, it's just you never, like, a few beers in and like it's all kind of blurry.
She's played bocce ball with Sam from Dogfish Head.
So did I.
No big
Oh,
deal.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He was the one. I mean, I got so many stories
Ron
about that.
Toth was like
Mhm.
part of that with Leah Huss, Jeff Huss, and that crew.
Yeah, because Dogfish was the kind of the beer that really got me into it. And I remember he used to put on the Intergalactic Bocce Ball
Yes!
tournament here
Oh
in
my
town.
God,
And I
that's what I
tried for
did.
3 years to get people to do it. And that was during like 6, 7, and 8. And
Yeah.
everybody lost their house. I couldn't get anybody to go do it with us.
Yeah.
And so I used to be like a really big autograph hound for baseball, spring training. It was spring training time. So I was out at the Giants facility and I took his book and I had a magazine with Sam and Jim Cook on the front.
Yeah.
And so I took it and I was like, and I remember I was driving down Scottsdale Road just to see if I could see them, and they were playing right there on the front. I'm like,
Yep.
oh wow! So I turned around and I went and I parked and I just sat on a wall and I watched him play bocce ball. And I saw Sam. I'm like, I'm gonna wait till he's done. I'm gonna go down and give him some of my book. So when he was done, I saw him and I hopped down. I run over the wall. I was like, hey Sam. He's like, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, good. I was like, I just want to introduce myself. So I want to saw my book. He's like, well, I gotta go play a game right now. He goes, why don't you go grab a beer and sit down and then I'll come sign your book. And I go, well, I'm not playing. He's like, well, why not? And I go, I got a bunch of cheap friends. He's like, well, you know what? Go get this beer, then get this one. You can't get them in Arizona. He goes, and then I'll come talk to you. I'm like, okay. So I go over and I get a beer and I sit down. I watch him play bocce ball, and he plays and he comes over and he sits down right in front of me. And the first thing he goes is, so what do you want to know? And I go, why bocce ball? And he goes, it's the only game I can play with a beer in my hand. I'm like, God, this guy's smart.
Hey guys, Brian with the Hot Break Craft Beercast. We are here on season 3 with Richter Aleworks. Brandon, we appreciate you sitting down with us. We're kicking off our season with a wonderful, wonderful brewery and a fantastic conversation. We're going to cover all kinds of fun things. Before we get into that, I do want to go through and introduce the Brew Crew. With me, as always, is Christy.
Hello.
She is producing for us today, as always, which we do appreciate. And, of course, JB of Vexette.
What's up, guys?
We appreciate him being here, and definitely check out his channel on YouTube, youtube.com/Vexette. I'm not going to try to spell it because I screw that up every single time. Definitely check us out if you haven't seen our YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/Benham Brewing. We do tips, tricks, tutorials. And if you like the podcast, please make sure you subscribe on any of the podcast suppliers. So before we get started, let's roll the intro, and we'll get things going.
Completely unscripted, delightfully unfiltered, and 100% fun. Sit back, relax, and get ready to have a great time as they bring you the latest in beer news, Benham brewing updates, and general shenanigans. And now, your hosts, the famed Brew Crew.
Are you originally from Arizona?
Born and raised. Yeah,
Wow.
born and raised less
You're
than 10
native.
miles from here. Still live
Nice.
here, yeah. Yeah, so when I wanted to do this, there was no breweries there. It was a rock bottom by the mall. And I remember I lived out here before the mall was even built.
Right.
So when we wanted to go to a brewery, it was like, all right, we got to go to Tempe. We had to go to Four Peaks.
Yep.
Yep.
That was like the closest one for us. And then when I decided I wanted to do this, it's like, I got to find some place on this side of town because I wanted to do something with my family, with my kids. And I wanted to have my own business, but I wanted it to be in my area because my whole idea with this was not about, I didn't want to be Four Peaks. I didn't want to be Sierra Nevada. I wanted to be my own thing. I can take the days off when I wanted to. I can work the days I wanted to. And if I can make a living and being happy and I get to spend it with my boys is watch them grow up. And it was great. And if they wanted to be part of this, awesome. If they don't, they learned what it took to start your own business and what it takes. I didn't want to just hand them, a successful business and just say, here, go. Because I worked for people like that before.
Yeah.
And it was a shit show. Oh, can I cuss?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We forgot to.
That was the other thing. Yeah, no, it's explicit. You can talk how you normally talk. You can be yourself. Absolutely, yes.
Always forget to
You
ask.
should see Marshall's.
Oh, I can get bad. I can get bad.
Marshall was like an artist with a paintbrush. The way he would colorfully do his language, like it was just, yeah.
My son. We were always on him because he's like, there's like a sailor, and then there's my son. He's like, we're like, why is you had a sentence and you had 4 F-bombs in one sentence? I don't understand how you get to that point. So he's a little better than he used to be, but
That's awesome.
That's funny.
How old are your sons?
So my oldest, Derek, he is 27. He runs the front of the bar.
Okay.
And then my other son, Cade, he's going to be turning 25, and he runs the kitchen, and he kind of started helping me a little bit more in the brewery. and then he runs the bar. They split the days, and then obviously I do all the brewing part of it, and then I help them behind the bar and do all the business aspects of everything.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, my wife comes in and helps out on really busy days. My daughter, she's off blazing her own path. She's in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she doesn't really show up here much.
Yeah. That's so cool,
That's
though.
very
that
cool.
There's
That
like,
is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's
That's
a
awesome,
true
actually.
family business.
It absolutely is, yeah. That was the whole point of me doing this. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, I had money and lost it. I had stuff, traveled, and lost it, and it just changed my perspective, and it wasn't what it was about for me anymore. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to pay my bills and just spend time with my kids.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's why I do it.
That's a lot of freedom. I mean, there's a lot of risk and stress to make that happen.
You know
but
what's funny is
it's-
that you think that there's a lot of freedom, but my motto is there's no off days. Today's my off day.
Yeah.
And I've been here since...
We fucked that up.
No, it's not you. I was going to be here anyway. And that's what I told you when we had talked about this. I was like, January sucks for us. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's the lead up to our anniversary party. I mean, I think I brewed 3 batches in the last 10 days, which is a lot for me. And then I still have to do like all the keg washing I couldn't even do today.
Yeah.
And then my, godson of a friend, he comes in here and is like, hey, I've got time. Let's do this. Let's build this. Let's clean this up. And the anniversary. So he's been here for 2 days and he had to leave, but he'll be back later. And I'm like, all right. So I met him yesterday or Friday here at 6 a.m. I met him here today at 7 a.m.
Wow.
So yeah, I'll be here all the time. And so that time, as much as you think you have the free time, you don't.
No.
Yeah.
You have to make it. But there are busy times. There's down times. But it is what you make out of it.
Right. But at least you have the freedom to kind of do. I mean, maybe that's the freedom I'm talking about. Because running a small business, obviously, you're tied to that.
Yeah.
And you're at the mercy of the business levels. You can't just be like, I don't feel like going in today. I'm going to call off. Yeah, that's not an option.
Yeah,
you can't do
it's
that.
not.
No.
It's not. And I've really dialed back with my opinions on, hey, you started this, you did this, and I'm like, no, because everybody got into it for something different. I've learned that now, but when I see people bitching and complaining about, oh my God, I'm working so much, I'm like, what do you think? You signed up for a business. You're a business owner.
Yeah.
So that I grew up with that, so I think I'm a little used to it. My dad had his own business, I worked for him forever, and my vacations were business trips. Sometimes they were in cool places like Disney World for a week, so I got to go off and do stuff. But by the time I was 13, I was in boardrooms.
Yeah.
And I was, I was in Chicago for a week, and then I was, a 20-year-old kid with all these business owners, and because he was teaching me that. And so I think that instilled a lot of that work ethic and what it really takes to be a business owner, and that sometimes it does overtake your life, which can be a burden. And it's where you find that happy medium where I can differentiate that time between family and business. But it gets blurred really easily, especially when you work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I don't know, I don't want to, without saying where we all know each other from, we've all have a hospitality background. So I think there's that fine line between being like super busy, but then when business levels drop, you almost start panicking. Like,
Yes.
I'd rather be busy because I'm not going to have a job.
That's almost a daily conversation. I
Yeah.
I was wondering how long it was going to take for us to bring up Tyler, but he came in yesterday and we hung out, and it was the day before, and we always talk about what were their sales like this week, or how busy were we this week. And for him, they're still newer than where I am. We're turning 8, and he looks at it as like, I wasn't busy this day. What happened? And then I remember being that. Then it became, oh, we weren't busy this week, or we were really busy this week. Because in the end, if somebody didn't come in on Tuesday because they came in on Thursday.
Right.
And so it's like, why did Tuesday suck? Or why did Thursday suck? And so you get used to it, that it just kind of blends out over time. And so I've got a lot better at that. But I mean, as a new person, you're every day you're looking at your bank account. Oh my God, okay, we made money this day. Okay, oh, today sucked. What happened? Why isn't nobody here? Yeah. And you can never, and we make excuses. Oh, it was a holiday. Oh, it was a football game. There's always a reason why we weren't busy.
The humidity was high today. That's why they didn't come in.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I was talking to somebody today, literally today, and he's like, "Oh man, dry January sucking for us." I'm like, "Yeah, but it happens every year."
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
And then, so you get used to it. It gets easier.
I worked for a family, and that was one of the coolest experiences I ever did. My boss would always say, this place would be awesome if it wasn't for the customers.
Yeah, we had people say that. It's like, I don't like to go there because it's too busy. I'm thinking, what? And some people say that, like, I like to come here because, it's not busy. But there's certain days, and we have these people that come in like religiously every Tuesday or every Friday. And some people don't because it's either too busy or it's not busy enough. So you're never going to please everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you figure it out, and you blaze your own path, and you decide, okay, this is where we're going to go. This is who we are. And as long as you're still happy doing it and you're making money, then
Life
go
is
for
good.
it. Exactly. Yeah.
How important it is to kind of stay true to that mentality of, and stay true to what you've created and not veer from that just based on good business.
So this is where it gets a little difficult, and I think a lot of people don't understand, is that we all got into this for different reasons, but in the end, we all liked beer.
Mm-hmm.
But some people wanted to make a lot of money, and they wanted to sell it off. Or I've had people come in and tell me that the numbers they think they're going to make in their first year. I'm like, good fucking luck. There's no way. And I'm like, and it's shocking to me. And I'm like, okay, hey, good on you. Go for it, man.
Yeah.
I hope you do.
Dream big.
But then there's people that just like me that want to stay small, or there's people that want to they've got an idea, and you can stay authentic. And I really appreciate that. When I go to breweries, I like those people that have stayed authentic. Mm-hmm. Just like any industry, there's people that I'm trying to keep this very PC because I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but people change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Success changes people, failure changes people, hype changes people.
Yeah.
And then because the beer industry is constantly changing with beer styles and let people hop on the hype train and hop off and do this and do that. Some people, they become very different and their business model becomes very different.
Yes.
Good on them. That's what they want. That's what I'm about. For me, it has been about authenticity. This is what I do. This is what I like. And we used to scour the Yelp reviews and, oh my God, this guy was pissed. We got to change this. And after a while, I was like, I don't care. This is my place. I don't want to listen to shitty music all day just because you want it like that. I'm sorry. No, this is my place. And if you don't like it, there's another place
other
across the
places
street
that play Enya.
Yeah,
You can go there and
exactly.
listen to it. Yeah.
That is your place. We're not for you.
I love it.
No, I think it's important to stay true to that, especially like you said, you've been open for 8 years now. Your anniversary is coming up the end of this month, January, which hopefully by the time this posts, it'll be kind of right before that.
Yeah, get on it.
Quit messing around. I think to be able to stay true to kind of those kind of core values over 8 years is it's a testament to kind of the vision and how rock steady you are. And like you said, other people coming in and you look at the Yelp reviews and you're not letting that change you because you're gonna fine, you'll change and please them, but then you're gonna one, upset somebody else, and two, you're not gonna be really doing the thing or have the vision or be in the place that you wanted it to be.
Yeah, because if you're chasing it, you're never going to achieve it.
Oh, no.
Because the next person is going to come along. And I mean, I even had a joke that we just finished this patio.
Yeah.
We had the patio from COVID times, and it was falling apart. We're like, we need to put a good patio in. We go and we do this beautiful patio out here, and I go, just wait. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, watch. Everything tells you should have done this. First day. Oh, you know what you should do? You should put garage doors in. Hey, why'd you do it like this? You should do that. And I'm like, I just spent all this money to this beautiful patio for you guys, and that's still not enough. And it's like, I just knew it was going to happen, and it does. And if I could put a garage door in, and they'd be like, why didn't you put it over there? Or why are you going to do a second one?
That garage door makes it really drafty in here. Why did you do that?
Yeah, it's always something. And so you learn to kind of let that roll off your back.
Yeah.
And I've worked really hard, especially the last 2-3 years, to start to let that stuff go.
Let it go.
Yeah, because it'd be a time I'd be like, fuck you, man. No. God, it was so irritating. I'm like blowing up my wife on the phone. I'm like, God, can you believe what this guy said? But now I'm just kind of like, no, it's used to it.
It's kind of hard not to take it personally because there's so much heart and soul in it.
It is, and it's my name on the door.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
it's something
someone
you're
comes in
attacking
and it's
me
like-
and my family.
Right.
Yeah.
Which they don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
They're just, and for someone to come up and say something, it's because I think they have an invested interest. They want you to be successful.
Yes,
and
they
in their
absolutely do.
opinion, they feel
Yeah.
like this would make things better. So it is coming from a good place, but I totally get it because we've gotten YouTube comments and stuff like that, and Christy has to walk me down off the ledge
I'm
like,
like,
don't respond, don't.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
You know what? I
fine.
always find it funny. I think I'd respect people more if they did say it to your face, but it's the people that troll people behind the internet. It's really easy to sit at a laptop or your computer and be criticizing someone, but it's always those people that don't want to say it to your face and just, I'm just going to go on Yelp and write a review. Well, you could have said something while you were here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, people love the gossip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drama.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
God, no kidding.
Well, and especially hospitality background, that was one of the things that, was kind of pounded into us when we stepped in the industry is like, someone has a good experience, they'll tell 2 people. Someone has a bad experience, they're telling 10 people because they love the drama.
Yeah.
They love the gossip. I mean,
Yep.
that's just how people
They
are.
absolutely do. And I love the people that admit that they love it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's, oh, no, I don't eat bullshit.
Yeah, I don't gossip.
You
I
wanna
don't
hear
gossip
it.
at all. No, I
Yes.
would never. I would never do
Exactly.
that. By the way, did you hear about that brewery? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bullshit.
Every day.
I do like what you've done with the patio, though,
Yeah.
because I was here a couple months ago and kind of checking it out, and it was good to be able to talk to you to kind of get us to come and back and see you. But you have like a low table. There's a nice, awesome bench. It feels much more open than what was there before. And
Oh, yeah.
there really wasn't anything there before anyway. But like it does feel more of an extension of the space.
This was always the plan.
Yeah.
But as anybody that starts a brewery or anybody's going to start a brewery, things never go as planned.
Yeah.
And it's like we had all this on our plans, stuff like that, and then you start realizing like all the extra paperwork that happens and dealing with the cities and stuff like that, and it became such an issue that finally somebody goes, just take it off the plan and do it later.
Yeah.
Because this is the only way we're going to be able to open. And I'm like, because otherwise we would have been like another probably 6 months. I'm like, yeah, screw this. Let's take it off
Well,
the
that's
plan.
just every time the longer you're waiting, that's just money.
Yeah,
That just spending because
exactly.
you're not open, but you're still having to pay for this stuff.
Yes, exactly.
So that's actually really good advice. Like, is that a problem? Good, take it off the plans.
Yeah.
Get the doors
'cause
open, get things
exactly.
rolling.
I mean, I paid rent for a year before I opened.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
That's a whole
Yeah,
lot.
lesson learned.
Yeah.
And brewing's capital intensive anyway, not just including the space and stuff, but the equipment.
Oh yeah, and back then it was. I won't say it's a lot now, but it was a lot more back then. Because now I'm seeing, I mean, just in the time we're in, that so many tanks are just flooding the market. And I mean, I've been tempted to buy some more stuff, but I bought 3 new Brights.
Is this new or used?
It's most of it's used, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
used stuff is, it's ungodly cheap.
Well, it was a couple years ago. It might have been pre-COVID, where the used stuff was just as expensive as the new
Exactly,
stuff
yeah.
because they couldn't keep up with all these breweries
Yeah,
open. So
with
that
the amount
has
of breweries
now
closing, yeah,
that
it's
has
everywhere.
flip-flopped.
Yeah, it's like I saw like one of my friends. They have a beautiful Premier system, and they paid $98,000 for it. They saw one in an auction, and they were like, "What the hell? It's 23 grand."
Jesus.
Jeez,
Wow.
I shouldn't
Yeah.
laugh. That's horrifying.
It is. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. Yeah. Yeah. When I bought my 3 Bright tanks right towards the end of COVID, it was from a brewery closing down in Texas, and I think they were like 7-8 grand new, and I paid like $2,500 a piece.
Whoa. Huge
Wow.
discount.
Yeah, and any bet that you can, especially for the stainless tanks and stuff like that, as long as they're taking care of it, passivating it, they'll last
Yeah.
a very long
Yeah.
time.
I mean, obviously some are better quality than others,
sure.
and you can do a lot of stuff to some of them. Some like, yeah, you can just tell the quality is not quite there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've looked at a lot of equipment, and sometimes like you can just tell it's just cheaper made.
Someone's kind of sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can find some good stuff out there from reputable companies for the price right now, it's man, I won't say I wish I could have started over, but I could have saved so much money.
Yeah. Well, you don't know until you go through
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. But then what's going to happen next year? And we're like, oh my shit, I should have saw this.
It's hard to be prophetic with some of that stuff. Yeah. I want to talk about your beers real quick. This is sorry. I already had
Side
one of
chick.
a beer.
Oh,
I'm kind of
side
like
chick.
side chick. Thank
Yeah.
you. Not
It's
side
really good.
hustle. I keep thinking side hustle. No, it's side chick.
That's because this is what we're doing.
Yes, the side hustle.
Yes.
It's delicious. This
Thank
is
you.
absolutely fantastic. And I know, JB, you were enjoying that as well. It's really, really good. It's
Thank
got
you.
a good kind of a dark coffee roastiness to it without it being too like acrid or astringent. It's really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I made that. So I just roundabout way story. Like I said, I'm a big car guy, and I made a beer, and I made a cold IPA, and it just ended up being a really popular beer.
Yeah.
Friend of a friend of a friend happened to have this company, and the guy that I named that beer after, he was doing work with him. He has a shop here in town, and they actually have a wax company called Bling Sauce, and he's like one of our customers that comes every Friday, ends up being his neighbor.
Wow.
And he's like, hey man, I told Mike Finnegan about your beer, and he thought he was great. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get sued again. But he's like, no, he thought it was great. He's like, he wanted to try it sometime. I'm like, okay. He's like, we're gonna see him at SEMA next year. I'll take some with you, or with him. And he's like, oh, I'm like, okay, cool, awesome. I was like, dude, I've watched this guy on TV when I was building the brewery out, I'd fall asleep at night watching his TV show.
Wow.
And so I just named it that because he took a Chevy and put a Hemi in it and they calls it blasphemy. And I'm like, that's perfect because, you know, it's just like the whole mixture of an ale and a lager. That's essentially what it is. I'm like, perfect name. He ended up loving the beer, invited me out to brew it and go party with him in his race when he was racing boats. And that's his boat called Side Chick. And so when we were talking about everything, ends up he doesn't really even like IPAs. I'm like, well, this is an IPA. So I had to tweak it to get it light enough for him.
Yeah.
And then he's a really stout guy. So when his partner was driving through town, because they go to the lake all the time, and they live in Georgia, but they go to Parker and stuff like that and race. He stopped in. And he was telling me, he's like, you really like stouts. Like, I got an idea. So I'm like, I'm gonna make this stout. And so I made that stout. And unfortunately, I released it like on the week where Motor Trend fired everybody.
Oh.
And I was like, he's not texting me back. What's going on? What's going on? And so he texted me back and apologized. And I'm like, no, don't worry about it. He was like, no, you're going through more than I am. But so that beer was made for him.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's a really cool story. It's delicious.
Thank
It
you.
is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just bummed about the head retention on it. Tried a few things. I tweak every recipe I ever make. I want to see what this does. I want to see what this does. And sometimes, majority of the times, it works out. But this time, I'm like, I don't like the head retention. But I know what I did, and I'll change it next time.
Okay. Yeah, it's still good though. I mean, I have zero complaints. It's really good. And Christy, you're doing seltzer.
So if I first started out, because every place I go, Baseline, I have to try their IPA.
IPA, yeah.
No, honestly, like it's a running joke that, what do you want to brew, an IPA? Oh, what are you going to get, an IPA? Like, I am addicted to IPAs.
We'll go in to be like, let's try out this new place. You want to get some? Yeah, I want something different though. I want to try something different. And then she's looking at the menu. She's like, I'm gonna get an IPA. What is wrong with you? It's like a chemical imbalance. Or something.
I think we talked about it prior to when we were recording, but Fate Brewing was one of my favorite breweries, and their
It was mine, too, for
their
a while.
West Coast IPA I can't remember what it's called.
Fateful.
Yes. Yeah, it was probably my go-to. But so I tried. Which one is number 2 on your board? I can't remember what it's called.
I named that after myself. The Thirst Trap.
Oh yeah. Also, I love the names. You got Thirst Trap and Side Chick, but that was so good.
I like your names, man.
Honestly,
Women.
that beer, and I had Brian try it too, was so good. It's
Yes.
solid. It's drinkable.
Yeah.
It's got the hops, but it's not like. First off, I hate to offend anyone, but we've talked about this on podcast before. I do not like hazies. I feel like if I'm drinking orange juice,
You're welcome
it's
here
not,
anytime then. I have this battle with everybody. I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate making them. I hate drinking them. I don't like them.
Yeah, same. So when I had that, I was like, this is exactly the style I like.
I make that beer. When people say I make that beer for me, I've made many different variations of it, but that is the base recipe. Is that beer is for me.
Yes.
Okay. No.
It's fantastic.
I would
Thank
come
you.
back just for that, but the hazy AF beer is absolutely not. But then I tried your seltzer, and it is phenomenal. Like,
Thank you.
There is a very strong flavor of fruit where I think a lot of seltzers you don't get that. Like, it's kind of just the baseline seltzer, but you miss that really
It's almost like a hint.
deep fruit
Okay.
flavor.
Yeah.
The blackberry one is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
And I think I talked about that several months ago when I kind of popped in and was kind of checking the place out for the first time and enjoying the beers and stuff. And we started talking a little bit about the seltzers and stuff. And because I was like, do you make those? Because other breweries have started to do that because that's kind of been the trend that, that kind of helps. And I know you can't reveal anything. It's an industry secret,
what's
which
funny?
is fine. But
People, I mean, I can go on and on now with this because I never thought I'd be making them,
Yeah.
and then it really came on because of COVID. When we got shut down, I was like, "What the fuck are we gonna do?" And so we kept coming with ideas, and I had heard about them getting popular. And honestly, Oso had made one, and so I called and talked to John and asked him a few questions, and he's like, go for it. I'm like, fuck. So I mean, there was days I would sit down and be like, I'd write out a recipe, and then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. And like a week later, I'd sit down and be like, okay, well, what would it take to do this? And no, I'm not gonna do it. And then I'd write out the order. I'm gonna order everything, and I'm not gonna do it. It took me about a year. And finally, my wife said, just try it. We got nothing else to lose. I'm like, if it works, it works. I'm like,
Yeah.
fine, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I made it, and people were like, damn, that's good. And I got so much shit from every other brewery owner and brewer making fun of me and stuff. And
for
I'm like,
not doing it or for doing it?
for doing it.
Oh, really?
Because it was still such a taboo thing, and everybody's like, no, It's like, no, you sell out. And blah. I was actually going to call it sell out, sir, because
You gotta come up with that name.
yeah, and it was like, and then all of a sudden, all our customers started drinking it, really liking it, and I
Yeah.
had one on tap. I'm like, people really like this stuff. Okay, let's do it. And then before I had 2 taps, and then like, holy shit, we went through that fast, almost any beer we ever did it again. and it took off again, put on 3 taps. And then I had a kind of a mistake, and it was a whole brew day process and stuff for that. And I realized what I had done. I'm like, oh shit. It ended up being like 9%. And everybody freaked out and loved it. And I was like, okay, but that get people in trouble. So I'm like, I got to bring it down. And then I made it. And then what's funny is I remember this week, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but within 1 week, I had 3 different breweries come in.
And ask you?
And I wasn't actually here, I think, for 2 of them. I was like, well, I haven't seen this guy in well over a year. Hey, this guy's never been here before. And they came in, and I noticed they all tried it. And I noticed within like the same week, all 3 of them had a brand new seltzer on tap.
Go figure.
Wow.
And then I knew I had something when another brewery, I hadn't talked to him in 6 months, and he shows up here one day. And I still remember it was my daughter's graduation. We're sitting over there, and he comes in and he's like, hey, man, I want to talk to you. I go, about what? And he's like, I'll give you some tips if you give me some tips. And I go, what do you mean? About what? And he's like, how you doing your seltzer? And it was a comic. My wife is sitting in front of me, and she's kicking me under the table. And I'm like, I think we've got something.
Yeah.
And then all these people came back, and they're like, you did it. You proved us wrong. And when people come in and say, oh, it's good. Like any brewery, people are going to go and say, oh, this is good beer. This is good beer. I mean, I do that someplace. Even though I don't like it, you want to be polite, and you don't want to criticize. I mean, there's certain breweries that I'll be 100% honest with them, and I expect that from certain brewers.
Yes.
But I know other people, they can come in here and say, I like this beer. I want to know what you don't like about it, because I want to fix that, and it helps you become a better brewer. Some people can handle it, some people can't.
Right.
But the seltzers just took off, and then I think they got better, and they got better. And then eventually I was like, I started to believe it. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe these are pretty good. And then I just leaned into the skid. I mean, we just kept going and going, and now I can't keep up with them.
Wow.
That means people were talking about your seltzers
You
to
know,
other brewers.
they are. And it used to be anywhere I'd walk into, the first thing somebody would say to me is like, oh, I don't recognize you without a shirt on. And now they're like, oh, the seltzer dude. Yeah. And so it became so popular that we went from 2 to, I've got 5, sometimes I got 6 of them up there, and they were running out of taps. So about 6 months ago, when we started redoing all the brewery for everything, for just updating it, and we want to do it, we added more taps. So I'm up to 17 now. And we're probably going to have, you know, like probably a solid 5. And then now we've rolled it into its own brand. And then, so that's why we're doing our anniversary party for 2 days, because that Friday is going to be about our new seltzer brand rollout.
So you're
pretty
so you're
cool.
launching the seltzers as its own brand.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Is that going to be distributed as its own brand?
We will
or-
start to, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
What
I'll tell you guys this, the big secret is that I've been working on is we're actually going to do seltzer cocktails out of it as well.
Oh,
So we
that's huge.
spent all day here yesterday doing them, and we came up with 3 that we wanted for the anniversary party. And so I make a base, like, you know, 13% seltzer, and then by the time we mix it, you're getting a good 8% mixed cocktail, and they're pretty
Wow.
fucking good.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's a very cool innovation to be able to kind of take it. What I like about the craft seltzers too is it's not just, you know, a grain alcohol that's in water that's carbonated and the fake flavoring and it's actually fermented and brewed.
Yes.
Like it's craft. You're making
Yeah,
it.
there's different ways to do it. Everybody
Absolutely.
does it different. 'Cause I know a lot
Absolutely.
of people started to ask me a lot of questions, and I used to help people a little bit more on it, but then eventually I was like, I can't give away the secret. Somebody
Right.
approached us and asked me. I've had 2 people. Somebody asked me to do a seltzer bar, and I'm like, no, I don't. I have no interest in doing that. And then somebody says, hey, would you consider letting us contract it and distributing it for him? Like, well, that's something I would be interested in, because if I can get it out there like that. And then they said, well, you'd have to give up the goods, and I'm like, I'm not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
your brewer knows how to make it. Then he quits, and before he's brewing down the street,
Right.
and then now he knows everything. Like, I can't. I don't want to be a dick and keep stuff from people. But I've told people some things about it. But I researched the shit out of it. I researched it so much and studied so much about it, just as much as I did about beer.
Yeah.
It's a little easier because it's sugar rather than all the different malts and all the different hops.
Right.
But there is a science to it, and there absolutely is an art to it as well. And you can absolutely change the flavor profile of it as well. And I didn't realize that people weren't doing that. They're just like, oh, I just found it on the internet, and it's just sugar, water, and yeast, and so I'm going to make it. I'm like, yeah, you can do it, but it's probably not going to be that good.
Yeah.
And so I do try seltzers here and there. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can tell they did this. Oh, yeah, I can tell they did that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't personally ever go to Total Wines and buy Trulies or White Claw. I don't like those kinds of seltzers. I think I prefer the ones that are in breweries because you get more of a complex flavor versus I think those are very generic. They all kind of taste the same.
Yeah.
They might add some artificial flavoring to it, but it just all tastes the same. So I don't know. But we've tried to make a seltzer before, and I would say it was an epic fail.
It's a sulfur bomb is what it was.
Yeah, it was.
It was cloudy like a hazy.
Yeah.
And it was gross.
Yeah, I make jokes about that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a hazy one next. I'm gonna do it. And they joke. It's easy to joke about it, but yeah, if you can do it right, they are pretty good, and they absolutely have their place in the market,
Yes.
and that is a market that is growing.
Yes.
And so I'm like, well,
Well, and it's something that'll help, especially, craft beer is typically a kind of a male-dominated sport, we'll say. Obviously, there's a lot of women that enjoy it, but I think it's majority men. But
it is.
and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
I'm gonna correct you that
Please.
you are wrong.
Okay.
I think sometimes that some people might be a little embarrassed about it because they're like, I'm a dude, I'm not gonna drink it. And I do have one of my friends, literally, he came in one day and he comes in after work and he loves the seltzer. That's what he drinks. And he came in one day and those other guys and they all had beer. He's like, oh man, I'm gonna be the only guy drinking a seltzer. All right, I'll start with the beer. I'll wait till they leave. I'm like seriously. And then even when if somebody pours a hot the IPA and then somebody has a seltzer, when I bring it back to them or put them at the bar, I always put the beer in front of the woman and I put the seltzer in front of the guy. And you'd be shocked how many times they'd be like, oh yeah, that's where it actually went. And I do it to make a point because we're in an industry that is very, I want to call it a safe industry. Everybody's very accepting of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when that kind of stuff happens, it's easy to, be offended or to jump on that person for not doing it. So why does it matter what I'm drinking, whether I'm drinking an IPA? I mean, you're the one started with the big double IPA or almost a double IPA. But normally be like, oh, you start with the seltzer and it'd be a joke. And so there's those people that they're just insecure and they're gonna always no, I don't want that. I don't want a stemmed glass. I'm like,
Right.
why?
Well, I mean, we've had this discussion before. And my biggest thing is it's a stigma. So as someone who loves craft beer, I almost feel like a sellout for going to for drinking a seltzer at a craft beer bar.
Why?
I think it's because I grew up as such a craft beer purist that it just doesn't seem right. But now I have gotten to a point where it's commercially acceptable, and I should have never worried about what everyone thought.
No, but we
anyway.
all did.
well,
Yeah.
I think of the pushback you got from other brewers about making seltzers.
We did.
So that's kind of that same stigma. Like you felt that you were kind of betraying the craft beer because you're doing a seltzer. This is wrong.
Yeah.
It's but it's really not. It's still a craft beverage. It's still something that brings people together. It's still a social beverage. It's in that same wheelhouse. And so for the pro brewers to come up and kind of shaming you, like, how dare you? I can't believe you, traitor.
But I did the same thing with people with hazies. We all did that. When I was
that's okay though.
Yeah.
That's acceptable.
But when they first happened, I'm like, no. I was like, when I went to brewing school, it was like we spent an entire week just learning about clarifying beer.
Yeah.
And now, here's this.
Here's the advanced class on how to keep it cloudy, keep it in suspension.
Yeah, and then everybody was trying to come up with different ways to keep it cloudy and adjuncts and fakeness just for the appearance of it. And I was like adding flour to it, and it was just ridiculous.
Really?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah.
This beer pairs nicely with Thanksgiving, like a gravy, because of the flour content.
Yeah, and it was shocking.
Yeah.
But you know what? People did that because they wanted on that next trend. And so, and there are breweries that do that. But for me personally, I don't like to chase trends. I don't even like to brew to style. I did listen to a couple of your episodes, so I wanted to see hey, what do you guys talk about, stuff like that.
It's like,
and I know you
Shit.
love. Well, yeah, because it's like you ever watch Friends?
Yeah.
So, when Joey does interviews, he always says something stupid. I do have a big mouth, and I do tend to be very honest and very critical of a lot of things as well, because I'm like, I have nothing to hide anymore. As I tell people, you want to start a brewery? I'll tell you what the fuck you want to know. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
And even with your beer, if you want me to be honest with you about what I get out of it, I'll do that. I want that respect from you as well. So when I do podcasts, I'm going to make sure it's okay, am I not going to say something? Am I going to say something? And I've been a lot better with that. And I've come to the acceptance that, especially this year, is what I say, I'm backing up. I've got nothing to hide anymore. If you don't like me, you don't have to like me. And if I don't like you, I don't have to like you. But you know what? I'll sit and have a beer with you.
Right.
We don't have to be buddies just because we're in the same industry together.
Right.
Still respect.
But I'm going to be,
though.
yes, exactly. But I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll still respect you for what you do or what you don't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually funny. Chris and I were talking about a lot of the podcasts we've done with some of the brewers, and it's so varying as far as the personalities that come across. And some of them we've had a couple that are very much, where you stand. They're honest, they're blunt, They don't care if they hurt your feelings or not. They're not doing it on purpose. They're just like, this is,
This
and I
is it.
stand by it.
Absolutely.
And you have to respect that.
I absolutely do. I love that.
That was kind of something that we were talking about, because we've had others that we've talked to that tend to be a little more polished, a little more PR, a little more careful, and so it's not. They're great conversations, and those podcasts go really, really well. But sitting down, and that's
it's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Kind of.
You're not getting any tea from anyone. Some
No,
of them. It's
no.
more like, oh, well, they're always very PC answers, which
Yeah.
is fine. I understand you're protecting your brand, but we prefer kind of the candid, like, we want your honest opinion.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because I think, and especially for brewing beer and craft beer, it's you have the. And like you do, you stand by your brand. That is what it is. You don't like it, that's okay. Go elsewhere and enjoy something else.
Exactly.
I'm staying true to that. And then some of those breweries that get bigger, then it kind of goes a little more corporate, a little more PR, a little more polished, a little more. And it's like, now it's not as, not that it's not craft, because I don't want to say that, but it's just, there's an aspect of that local pub that's kind of lost.
I think it goes with any industry. I
Any
mean,
industry
just
that
like,
goes big.
just like music. These guys are
absolutely.
underground. We love them, and
Yes.
they're not going to do it. But as soon as somebody puts a big check
Yeah.
in front of them, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll sing whatever you want. And then everybody calls them a sellout. But you know what? They made money, and they did. And those people that like got into it and stayed that way, good for them. But that's not everybody's idea. Some people do want to grow. I mean, there was a couple of breweries that I knew of, and they flat out told me when they started, their idea was to grow and sell, because
sell it.
everybody was starting at that time. That's when Anheuser-Busch was buying up these breweries, and breweries started just to get there.
Get big enough so they would get bought out.
And it didn't work out for them. But if that's what you wanted, that's on you.
Yeah.
That's not why I got into it.
Right.
Well, and I again, this is going to be bad when I say this, because immediately I'm going to get the glare from Brian that I'm name dropping, and I'm not. It's just that, like, I remember craft beer when I first came out here, and it was like what got me into it, and I think what Brian got into it for was the community, right? It was like the nicest group of people that legitimately just wanted to go out and have a beer. Like, we'd go out to Papago and like have. Oh, maybe not Orange Blossom. Even Ron has admitted that's his moneymaker. Like, but like,
Exactly.
But like, it was still a good watering hole where you could just go with friends and have a good beer.
And Ron was a dick, and he knew it, and
Yeah.
he owned it, and I love that.
Right.
For some reason, Ron took a shining to me and my wife, and I have a great relationship. I still talk to him every so often. He lives in Germany. I'm like, good for you. Next time I go, I'm probably going to try to meet up with him.
Yeah. Wow.
But I loved it. But people kept saying, oh, he's a dick.
He's very unapologetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know what? He was absolutely honest. And I think some of those people just couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it.
But I feel like I need to get out of that, because I think those were like the glory days for me, where it was like about community, and now it's not that it's not, but I feel like some of that old school tradition is kind of lost too, where
I feel the same way.
like I feel like in this maybe that's why I like the West Valley breweries so much, and like the little diamond or triangle we always talk about with Lake Pleasant and Marshall and Simple Machine, like that brings me back to like the old school days, where like I feel like a lot of places have gotten so big that it just doesn't feel like that old school vibe where you can just go out and have 5 beers with someone. That sounds terrible, but you have your group of people. No, I mean, but like
Especially at 11 o'clock in the morning.
That's a Wednesday for me.
I don't know. I guess that's like what we started this company for, was that community and like the love of craft beer, the passion versus. I don't blame people for selling out if that's their MO, but for us, it's more about like the community and appreciating.
The community is great.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of really, really cool people in the industry. But just like with anything else, just because you do the same thing doesn't mean you're always going to be friends. But you still have that, mutual respect for people, because you're fighting the same battles I am. And the people that understand that, that's awesome. But when those people that don't do that and still try to squash you to make themselves look better, that's not cool. That's not somebody I want to hang out with.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were first starting, I had beefs right away with people and people talking shit about me. I'm like, what's going on? I thought we were all in this together. And I remember my very first craft brewers conference, I think it was like 2011 in San Diego.
Wow.
And Sam Calagione was up there, and he made the comment about how the high tide floats all ships, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And I was like, I bought in. I was like, this is awesome. Everybody's friends. This is cool. And I think at that time there were like 580 craft breweries at the time. And I kept thinking, man, it'd be awesome if I could be like number 1,000. By the time I opened up, I was like, I don't even know where I was, 17, 2,000, somewhere around there.
Wow.
And then later on, a few years down the line, his next quote was that 95% of the craft brewing industry is awesome, 5% aren't. But we all know the 5%. And I was like, you're right, because everybody's got beef with somebody, and is the beef I had maybe with somebody in my area, or they had beef with me, I would think it was just our area and it was just me. But then I'd go hang out with guys in the East Valley and their breweries, and then they all got beef with another East Valley brewery and stuff like that. So everybody got along for the most part, but there was always a brewery that was upset with
There's
somebody.
an outlier
and
somewhere.
it's still that way.
Yeah.
And then I mean, for me personally, in my opinion, is that once breweries started selling, and it didn't become every guy in his garage wanted to start a business.
Yeah.
It was, hey, I'm a restaurateur. Craft brews are cool. Let's add one to the side of our business, and now it'll be a brewery. And those guys kind of changed it, because it wasn't, you don't go into the brewery. Who's the owner? I don't know. Who's the brewer? I don't know. And so the playing field changed at that point. And now you're dealing with, multimillionaires starting a business where these guys, other guys cashed out the 401 and are brewing on a glorified homebrew system. You can't compete with the two. So the market, or the industry, really changed at that point. I feel like sometimes I miss the old guys, because I started with, when I was first starting, it was like with North Mountain and Fate and Wilderness, and those guys were all trying to open. We all knew each other. We all kind of met at that first craft brewers conference, and what I wanted to do, they were able to open up before I did, but we're still friends.
Yeah.
I'm obviously better friends with other ones than I'm not really friends with a few others, but you find your place. And that's the number one thing I tell people when they want to start a business or start a brewery, is that you're going to learn very quickly who your people are, who you can talk to, who you can't, who you trust, and cultivate that. These are your people. These other people, keep them at arm's length. You can be friendly with them, have a beer with them, but those are not your people. You don't have to be friends with them. And I feel like I'm like shitting on this, but I'm not at all. It's just lessons learned.
I think it's a reality. And like you said, 95% are great, but you have those outliers and things. And it doesn't mean you need to be hostile.
Exactly, yeah.
But know who your people are, know who your tribe is, know who you can rely on, and that's your circle of friends or support. And then others, you can be respectful.
Yeah, I absolutely do. Like, I hang out with Tyler and JJ almost on a weekly basis. We go to each other's houses. We hang out a lot. They are my people. You mentioned Steve McFate. I name drop Steve a lot because I'm really good friends with him. We have the same mentor, and we learned on the same equipment. And I actually have the tank that he learned to brew on. That's what I brew on. So I see him on a regular basis, and we talk about that. I miss him not being in the industry. And then some of those older guys, Ted Golden from Four Peaks comes in and sees me every time he's in the side of town. And I like those old guys. Sometimes I remember looking up to those dudes thinking, oh my God, I want to be like these guys someday. I want to,
Yeah.
And now I'm that older guy. Nobody looks up to me because, like I said, I just do my own thing, and I am a little bit different out here, I think. I don't know if it's this West Side or what it is, but I'm a little bit different because my idea for what I want to do is not the same as everybody else's. But I do like the fact that I've kind of got one foot in the old guys and one kind of foot in the new guys.
Yeah.
But I am feeling older all the time because after 8 years, I can't even count how many brews have opened up since I have. I used to feel like the new guy. I think it was last year. I was like, wow, I've been doing this for quite a while. Breweries have come and gone, and there's more coming.
Yeah.
So it's a constantly changing industry, which I think is for the better.
I think it's good. It always ebbs and flows. Like you'll have a ton of breweries open, and then there'll be a bit of the bubble will burst, and then the not so good breweries will kind of fold and go under, and then the cream of the crop is what is left over, and then that starts to build again. And I think we're kind of.
Yeah, I was looking at that door the other day when I was cleaning, and I was like, oh wow, there's like 6 breweries stickers on this door, because that used to just only be Arizona breweries. Like you came in Arizona and put stickers on that door, and there were like 6 that aren't there anymore. I was like, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is it? We talked a little bit off camera, which I didn't realize. When you first got your start, you went to the Colorado Boy in Colorado to learn how to kind of Franken brew and piece together your own system.
Yes.
How did you get? Like, what was the original vision when you wanted to open a brewery, and how did you stumble upon Colorado Boy?
That's a great story. So, I've told the story, and I'm trying to like parse it down to sound like big and long-winded. But anyway, I worked for my dad since I was a kid. Since I was like 9 years old, I worked summers. I had visions of always starting my own brewery. I'm not my own brewer. I start my own business. And eventually I was going to take over my dad's business. And then as things changed right before the recession hit in like 2005, 6, and 7, my dad decided to sell his company. And I was part of the sale to this company that I grew up hating. I did not want to work there. I felt like I was traded to the Dodgers. I was so, these dudes flew in from Texas, and I met them at a Burger King because I was like, I'm not going, but I was part of the sale because at the time I was like only one of like 3 or 4 guys in Arizona in the Valley that knew how to wrap a car. And because I was starting to do car wraps.
Yeah.
And so that was ultimately what they wanted me to do. So when I got there, you know, they promised me the world and everything was going to be fine. But within like 6, 7 months, everything started changing. And I'm like, this is not what I want to do anymore. And then the recession hit.
Yeah.
I lost everything. I was doing really well. I mean, we had a 4,600 square foot home in a gated community and a half-acre lot. And I had a BMW I bought in Germany. I had a Lotus in the garage I never even drove. My wife had a brand new, Tahoe. Things are great. We lost it all. She lost her job. She was in real estate. And I was working. And then eventually old neighbors of ours brought me over to their shop and promised me the world again. I'm like, okay, cool. I can start rebuilding. Such a fiasco. Such a fiasco. That was 2 spoiled rotten kids that grew up on our street. And the dad, he just gave them a business because come to find out his business was failing. And he put a lot of stuff in his kids' names so they could have their own business, maybe their own future, but needed me to mentor them. I didn't know any of this stuff.
Oh, jeez.
And I remember I was like, what am I going to do? They cut my salary. They quit paying my benefits. And we ended up losing our house, had to sell all our cars. We lost everything. And that was the point where I was like, I need to blaze my own path. I need to figure out what I was going to do. So first I started listening to his podcasts.
We're gonna pick a low risk industry, like opening a brewery.
Yeah, but back then it wasn't. It wasn't even on the thing. Because we had started traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like beer. I grew up in a alcohol-free family because my grandfather's an alcoholic. So alcohol wasn't even around.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, and then so we went to Europe. I was like, I want to try European beer. And then when I started getting into it, beer a little bit before we left. When I got there, it was like experiencing beer. I'm like, now I get it. We're in London drinking beer. I'm like, this is good shit. So I came home, got really into beer. And then we went back the next year and went to Germany. It was like experiencing it all over again because it was all different. So I came back and then I ended up, leaving that company and going to work for our neighbor's company. And I was still really involved in it. And then when they cut everything, I just get rid of all my stuff. And I was like, what am I going to do? And we got debt and shit. And so I'm like, I listened to Dave Ramsey, how to get out of debt.
Yeah.
Busted our ass, learned how to get out of debt. And then he kept mentioning this thing, 40 days to the work you love. Because I was miserable.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I really into? He's like, God, I really like beer. That was a fun industry. I just want to do something that's fun. And so I got into beer. I got into homebrewing a little bit. And then I remember I was sitting at work one day, and I didn't know if this kid that I worked for was going to come into work or not, because some days he'd show up, some days he wouldn't. And I remember one day I was listening to a podcast, and I had found some random podcast from the CBC from like 2009, and Tom Hennessy was on the panel, I think with the guys from DC Brew and another one. And Tom Hennessy talked about this immersion course that he offered.
Yes.
And so I wrote the number down. I'm like, I'm going to do that. How cool would that be? And I remember it was a Monday. The dude I worked for, this kid, shows up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and comes and just starts yelling and screaming and shit. And I'm thinking, I'm too old for this. You're like 10 years younger than me. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I took that piece of paper and I went out and I called Tom Hennessy. In my mind, I know he was closed. It was Monday. He said he was closed. And I was probably just going to call him, leave a message. He might call me back. That'd be the end of it. He answered the phone. And I'm like, and I remember I said, oh, I thought you were closed today. So he's like, well, we are, but I'm here putting in a sink. How can I help you? And I said, well, I just listened to this podcast and you offer this immersion course. He's like, yeah. He starts explaining it to me and says, for $100, I'll put you on it. And I remember it was March. And he goes, the first opening I have is in November. And I go, okay. He goes, you want to do it? And I go, yeah. He goes, okay, just send me $100. You send me a check. He goes, and if you decide you don't want to do it, I'll rip up the check. I'll mail it back to you, whatever you want to do. And I go, all right. So I went in my car and I called my wife and I go, hey, we're going to go to Colorado in November. She goes, okay, why? And I said, we're going to start a brewery. And she goes, okay, what do we have to lose? Because we had lost everything.
Yeah.
And so we did. We left the week after November and we went up there and we spent that week with him. And it just so happened that it was, roundabout story was that the way that, I keep hitting the mic.
No,
sorry.
you're good.
Steve McFade had been up there for like 7 months before, and he left like the week before I did. And the whole time I was there, Tom kept telling me, man, you and Steve should really go into business together. You and Steve should really do this together. But I did it, and it was a great course. I still talk to Tom, every so often. I have questions, I'll ask him. He is still my mentor. And it was the best thing I did. In the meantime, between that time of May and November, I had signed up for brewing school. I had tried to get into brewing school, but it had just started to take off, and the waiting list was over a year.
Wow.
And then when the recession hit, people started dropping out. So Siebel called me and said, hey, we know you're pretty serious. Would you like this guy's spot? And I'm like, I'll take it. And so I did Siebel, and then I went and did that. My plan was just to go work in a brewery for a couple years, save up money, and maybe someday start a brewery.
Yeah.
And Tom's like, no, do it now. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. That's what you're here for. And so he talked me into it. I came home and I started busting my ass, started saving money. My wife working overtime. She took a shift working nights because she was making a shift differential. Wow. And we saved money. I bought those Grundy tanks, had them shipped from a brewery, and they sat in my garage for 4 years. And that's how we did it. And then eventually I looked at so many spots. I can't even tell you how many offers I made. I mean, in this complex across the street here, probably like 7, 8 offers, just trying, because everything was bank owned back then and you couldn't do anything. And I wanted to be in this area. And then you learn about how hard it is as a startup to get somebody to take you seriously. Because they all want a Subway. They want, something established.
Tried and true. And
they don't want, Jim and Hank that are going to brew beer. Yeah, whatever. They're going to fold in a year.
Right.
No.
Wow.
I mean, I think that's a question. Well, first off, I think the best part of the story is that your wife is so supportive, and you guys.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not.
I could not have done it without her. She actually took a sabbatical to help me get this place started.
Wow.
And we were desperate. We had to move with my parents, and it was hard. And that's another thing I tell people is like, remember that this is a business. This is not your family.
Right.
But nothing tested our marriage more than starting a business together. Yeah. And, having to live with our parents. I mean, it was tough. It was really hard. Yeah. And it's still, that's what that side chick works, because that name, what your business becomes. It becomes your side chick. That is, you spend so much time on it. And to this day, we're out on a date on Saturday, just going to lunch, and my phone's beeping. I'll still look at it. Oh my God, is something wrong? Something wrong? And so I'll do that. But she'll tell the boys, leave Dad alone. We're going somewhere today. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
And so it's still there. But it's not for everybody. But yeah, I could not have done it without her. I mean, she worked a lot. She sacrificed just as much as I did.
Wow. And
then eventually, after a year, she's like, yeah, this is, we're not going to survive working together, because we were button heads all the time over everything. And she, we needed insurance. So she went and got a day job, and now she's got a really good job that she loves. So she still comes in and hangs out and helps us on really busy days and stuff like that.
I mean, and I think the other question about that is, when Brian and I originally started, we were just really good friends, and we both liked to brew. And I think the initial thought was, we're going to do this because the dream is like, oh, it's a pipe dream, but we want to open a brewery. Yeah. I mean, I think it's turned more into like a media group situation. But do you think the school and the training that you went through was what gave you the confidence to do it? Or do you think you would have had that kind of gumption to do it regardless of whether you went through that?
Me personally, I think I would have had it either way, because I knew that I would someday be my own boss. I mean, I remember
based on how you grew up too, with what your dad taught you.
I remember I signed up. I saw a commercial on TV about getting your own paper route one day, and I called and I signed up for it. And I remember I got a phone call like a week later that our neighborhood paper boy just happened to quit. So I got the job. And I remember the guy was going to come pick me up like at 4 o'clock in the morning to take me on their first thing. And that's when I told my mom. I didn't even tell her I got a job. So, wait, what? Some guy's gonna come pick you up at 4 o'clock in the morning?
He's got this really nice windowless van.
Yeah,
he had candy and puppies.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's wrong?
So I've always done that, and then at one point I had my real estate license because I wanted something of my own, because when my dad sold his company, which was going to be mine, it's like I sacrificed. I was going to go to law school. I got a degree in justice. I was going to go to law school, and then all of a sudden, everything got pulled out from underneath me, and I knew I had to make my own path. And then after losing everything, it changed my mindset. And I just wanted something that was going to make me happy, something I can pay my bills with, but do something that I love. And that's what I tell people when they come in here and they complain about their day. I'm like, you know what? In the end, here I am. We're here on a Monday afternoon, drinking beer, talking about beer. I'm not in a cubicle somewhere having some guy yell at me that's half my age, not knowing if tomorrow I come in, I'm fired, or the next day the doors are locked. I mean, I've had that shit happen to me too. And I don't want to live through that again, because in the end, I know what I get out of what I put into this. And in the end, this is a fun industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking beer.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people drink? I mean, they work to go get off and go drink that. We do it during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so no matter what it is, as hard as it is, and I complain about it so many times, it's like, in the end, it's beer. How bad is it?
Yeah. How bad could it be?
Yeah, and then you also never want to say, that's the thing that bothered me, because how many people have come through and say they want to start a brewery and then don't. You can tell pretty quickly. It's less than probably 5% of the people I've met that have actually tried to like really go forward through with it. In the end, you don't want, and me personally, you don't want to think, God, I wish I would have. Just go for it. And if
Right.
it doesn't work
Right.
out, you can always go make money something else.
Right. I think it's the risk that and the capital requirements that, you know, as
It
we go through
is.
and down the line, you're like, I don't think I'm that good of a brewer.
That's what
No,
it
I don't
is.
think that anymore. No.
Oh, I've never thought I was a good brewer.
No.
I am my own worst critic.
You're killing me.
No, I mean, I think it's normal to have some insecurities, right? And I think the problem is there's two people in this equation that are both in their heads so much. So like we're both kind of like, it's never going to be good enough to open a brewery. You know what I mean? Like, but I always think you brew great beer. I mean, you do. It's
She
just-
lies to me, and I appreciate that about her. It's the reason I keep her around. Yeah. I'm not confident enough to have a no person in my life. I need a yes man, and that's yes. She's like, oh, it's fine. No, it's great. Well, that's something I think that speaking of having good beer and being a good brewer. I mean, let's talk about the industry. Like back in the heyday, like you were talking about, like people would you wanted craft beer, you had to go down to Tempe to go to Four Peaks.
Yeah.
You had to go a long way to walk through the industrial thing. You walk past the tanks. Like it was kind of a cool experience. You had to
Yeah.
go a long way to go and do that. They had nothing else going on in there. It was only beer.
Yep. Oh, they have the restaurant too.
Well, yes, but there was no other draw other than going in to go get the beer. And again, correct me because I'm talking out my ass right now. Is beer enough to draw people into the breweries now? So if you come in and you brew good beer and you open a brewery, people will come, or is it now requiring? Because there's so many breweries, to set yourself apart, do you have to be not only have a different brand, but then you have to do the draw, the sports, the bingo, the trivia night, the karaoke, the other things, or has that always been a requirement? Just in the 8 years that you've been
I don't think it's
doing
always
it?
been a requirement. No, it's different. When you wanted craft beer back then, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, your options were very limited.
And you would drive wherever it took to get that craft
Exactly,
beer.
yeah, because it was new and it
Yeah.
was starting, and so those were the only place that really existed.
Right.
But then when it became, there's one on almost, within, what's the draw, with every 10 miles of you, or there's another brewery or something like that, it made it easier. And then you became like, well, am I going to go to this one? Am I going to go to that one?
Right.
So I do think that back then it was different. Nowadays, is the beer enough? I don't think so.
Yeah. See?
And
The beer's not enough.
it's not, because things have changed. And
Yes.
I have this whole idea that there is a romanticism about beer.
Yes.
I've had some good beer. I've had some bad beer. I've had some memorable beers, and those are the ones that stick with me more. Was that beer really that good? Maybe not. But where I was and what I was doing, getting drunk in the Brewers Guild in Belgium, and when I decided I'm going to start a brewery, those were one of the greatest beers I've ever had. Drinking this beer at the George Tavern out by Stonehenge, this pub that was built in 1310.
Wow.
That was that's probably the best beer I've ever had. I don't know what it was, and was it really? Maybe not. But in my mind it is, and I like that romanticism of it. I like that memory and image of it. But I'll go into some of these breweries and I'm like, okay, that's really good beer. That one's not. That one's really good. That's not. But some people can get away with that because they are a hype one and people want to do that. Just like, I mean, you probably collected beer and it's like, oh, it's Hop Slam Day. I got to go buy
Yeah.
it up. It's
I
Goose
can't-
Island Day.
I can't tell you how many times, besides Bourbon County Stout, I can't tell you how many times I've taken the 6 to 7 hour drive to go to Lost Abbey, and they had, Duck Duck Goose and, Angel Share or
Yes.
whatever. And I feel like that was just beer. They didn't really have anything else. It was an industrial park, and that was pretty much it. But people were willing to drive hours to get this beer because it was kind of like this limited release. But there's part of that I kind of miss in a weird way. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. That sounds terrible. I don't.
It's not. I mean, I used to do that. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have cases and cases and cases and cases of that kind of stuff. And some of us 8, 9, 10, 12 years old. And so many people have brought me beer that they used to do that too,
Yeah.
and then never drink it. And they would just give it to me. And then now I just give it away to other people. So I don't chase beer anymore. There are beers I go out of my way to get because I do like that beer. I absolutely do love Lost Abbey, though. That's one of my favorite beers. Tommy's a super nice guy, very extremely knowledgeable, but he is actually very accommodating. And so I've been able to talk to him a few times. But when I go to San Diego, that is the place that I want to go more than any other brewery, just because I do like their beers. But I mean, I think my mini fridge at home, I probably have like 7, 8 Angel Shares in there. And
Wow.
I mean, I've got a bunch of them. And they became, I used to call them, they're adult baseball cards. Mm-hmm. I got it.
Yeah.
And now I don't want it, because I want to be able to tell people, hey, I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I drink it, I don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And so the industry has changed a lot, that it's not the same anymore, because, I mean, for us personally, I think in the Valley is that number one place people want to go is they like Oso. Why? Because they can bring their kids and they have all the experiences and stuff, and they have giant outdoor patios. And people like that kind of thing. You know, if they want just a brewery with a restaurant attached to it, you know, there's a lot of breweries that are like that, and this is not the same. But maybe those people, that's what they want. They just want a good dinner and a locally made beer. They don't need a specialty award-winning beer, where there are those people that's the only place they go. I've got to go to Rent House. I've got to go to Wilderness. I've got to go to Tombstone because they have the rarest of the rare and the best of the best. I don't want to go to brewery A, B, or C because they're not cool or they don't have those award-winning beers. So it has changed. So is a startup, is beer enough anymore? I mean, I'm not shitting on it, but I don't think it is.
No.
We're hyper local, hyper regular. Without my regulars, I wouldn't survive. Mm-hmm. And they want me to succeed just as I want them to keep coming in and make them happy. I'm become friends with all these people.
It becomes their place. It's their pub.
It absolutely
It's
is.
their local public house.
Yeah. Like I mean, I worked like, I forget, it was like 14 hours last Friday. And I'm like, it's 7:00. I'm going home. And my buddy's texting me. He's like, ruined. I go, what? He's like, I came here to hang out with you on a Friday night like I do every Friday night, and you're not here. And he was mad at me. I was like, honestly, I felt bad because I was like, oh, he's going to show up and I'm not going to be here and he's going to be mad at me. And so I felt bad, but he just joked about it. But he's become a really good friend of mine. But that's what he does every Friday night. He likes to come in and hang out. And then at night, one of our favorite things to do is that, like on a Friday night or maybe a Saturday night, I call them our degenerate friends, and they'll show up, and we close at 10. But we close it, we shut the lights off, and we just sit here and we just hang out, and we just drink, and we just talk, and we do that for an hour or two, and then we go home. And that's my favorite part about doing what we do, is that you people become my friends.
Yeah.
You supported me in my business. Yeah, I'll buy you a beer. Let's just hang out and just do it, because I don't get to go out on a Friday night to a brewery very often.
Right.
And I do miss that a lot. So the fact that I can do that, yes, that's our favorite thing.
JB, I mean, you're not necessarily as into, you like beer, but you're not like into craft beer as much.
I don't know the difference between a hop and a.
But do you feel like you would go to a brewery without the extra bells and whistles like food and all that? Or do you think...
I do on occasions, but a lot of my friends are big beer drinkers. One of my friends is a huge, I'd call him a beer connoisseur, or just in general with stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's who got me into Simple Machine, and that's how my whole journey started, was going to Simple Machine and then knowing you guys. Uh-huh. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I just really love beer. And, I mean, the food helps if you have food, but I would totally go and get a beer.
I think, kind of like we were talking about some of the places that you were at in Belgium, and like those are the best beers that you'd ever had. I think the place, the environment, the ambiance,
Totally
whatever the
difference.
setup is, I think kind of helps to impact the memory of that beer. So it's not just about the good beer. You have to have a good place to enjoy it. And so having a place that is like-minded, and it's not just about the physical environment, it's about the people, the clientele that come there. And so having everyone that's kind of of the same mindset or the same idea, why they're coming there to enjoy the beer, I think helps to make that beer better.
Yeah.
In your own mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you learn because I mean, when I first started, I was like, I want to make this style, I want to make this style, I want to make this style. I was making the beer I wanted to make,
Yeah.
and everybody's going to give you their opinion. Why don't you make this? Why don't you make that? And then, hey, you made that, it was really good. Why don't you make it again? It's like, because I don't want to. I want to make something else again.
Right.
And I think sometimes you lose track that this still is a business, and so you do have to do that. And so, like for our anniversary, I'm making 2 beers over again that I really didn't want to make because I mean, one I really liked. The other 2, I'm just like, I don't like making them. They're just not fun to me to make. I don't even really drink them, but I have to make them for everybody else. And those are like some of the 2 number 1 requested beers.
Wow.
And so I'm like, all right, I'll make them because it's the anniversary, it's a party, and I'm celebrating just as much as you're celebrating us being here. I'm celebrating being here because of you guys.
Yeah.
So I've got to make stuff for them, and I've got better with that. Just like I'll brew a hazy every so often. Even
I can see you having a visceral reaction.
I do.
Right
It
now.
is.
You're like,
It's just such a trigger point. It is. It's such a trigger point for me, and I wish I wasn't as just so
Adverse to
combative
it?
with it. Yeah,
There
but
was definitely a little bit of a grimace there when you said that.
But I mean, I sold my soul a long time ago when I started making those seltzers. So I'm like, what the hell?
When you're making beer, are you more precision guy or winging it when you're trying to experiment?
I'll put it this way. This is a story I like to tell. You can take a box of macaroni and cheese, and you can make that box of macaroni and cheese, and it's macaroni and cheese. It's good. Everybody likes it. But if you change it and do a few things on it, that was better. Hey, maybe I didn't like it this time. Next time I'm gonna do this. And then the next thing I say is, okay, that's like being a scientist. It's beer. Do A, B, C, and D, you're gonna get E.
Right?
Just like with anything in the world. Name me 5 scientists. And people are kind of like, Then I'm like, okay, name me 5 artists. I'm
Right.
like, you name the Ninja Turtles, you're pretty much done.
Right.
People know that because it's the artists, the ones who take that base thing and convert it and make it their own. Those are the ones that become memorable. So that's what I like. I like to tweak. I like to have fun with this because I didn't get into this. If you want to just make A, B, C, and D and make a box of macaroni and cheese, just go be a production brewer at a Budweiser and push buttons.
Right.
But to do something fun and different and see, hey, if I change my temperature here, if I change my salt profile here, if I, use these different hops instead, what's going to change? And maybe someday you come up with something that's like, oh my God, it ends up being one of the best beers in the valley. It's just like, wow, that's really cool. I like that because I would be bored as hell if I was making the same thing over and over. And that's not why I got into this.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
So, but once you nail that beer, can you recreate it?
You can.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
you.
Me? I'll say 95% maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, just because of, I don't have like the fanciest system because I am still brewing on that original Frankenbrew thing. So
Yeah.
temperature in the winter and temperature in the summer are completely different. And so I lose anywhere from 2 degrees to 10 degrees, sometimes 11 degrees on different days. And then because of the differences in the mash and things like the way my false bottom is, sometimes my transfer rates are a lot slower, a lot
Yeah.
quicker. So they vary from time to time for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So I can get close and they're very similar. But in the end, for me personally, I like to make that same beer, but I almost always
tweak it.
I always do because I want to see, well, what does this do? Did I like this? Did I not like that? Because then the next time I feel it just helps me become a better brewer.
Yeah.
And it helps it keep it fun.
Yes. Well, that's like you said, with the industry changing constantly, that's not always a bad thing because you have to keep up and make seltzers, or come up with some interesting way to to continue to innovate.
I even tweaked the seltzers. I mean, I have made the same seltzer time and time and time again, and in the end, it's become second nature to me because I've made so many of them now that I can bust them out. But I have tweaked the little things here and there, just on a couple of them to see what it did.
Yeah.
But in the end, they kind of go back to where it's at.
Yeah. Gotcha. So with the anniversary coming up, you mentioned you got 2 beers that you're making kind of under protest, but you're going to do them for the fans, and it's a 2-day anniversary. So 8 years, January 25th, 2 days. So what's day 1 look like?
So
What's
day 24, that's the Friday. We're going to roll out the seltzer brand. So we've got the seltzer logo, we got seltzer T-shirts, and we will have probably 6 seltzers up there. In addition to, we'll be doing the seltzer cocktails.
Okay.
And then we'll have a couple of specialty variations actually on tap of that. And then on Saturday is kind of, we'll actually have food trucks and stuff that day too. And then Saturday is the big day. Saturday is the big day where any available mug clubs go up for sale. We open early. We've got food trucks. We've got live music. we'll have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 beers up there. They're all new too, so I'll take some of the seltzers down. We will still do the cocktails as well,
Okay.
because I know people can't make both days or one day or the other. It's hectic as hell
It's
in
gonna
here.
be intense.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think last year I got here at 8 a.m. and I actually never sat down at a stool until 9 p.m.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and of course that's the day we make our money. But that's not what it's about for me. It's the fact that these people come in here and they like us and they support us, and I get to see industry people and I get to see friends. I haven't seen them in a while, and I love that people come here and they're happy for us, because I'm living my dream, but I couldn't do it without them
We'll have the
supporting
support.
me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be exciting though. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
To come in, maybe we'll stop by and bring our cameras and stuff.
You can do
we'll
that.
Shoot some stuff.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah,
we'll
it'll
throw
be
some
fun.
stuff up for you.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun. You mentioned the food trucks and stuff. So you guys do food trucks? Was it like once a week currently?
We used to do them multiple days, but now we generally only do them on Friday nights.
Friday.
We will do them on Saturdays if we have a special event like live musician, or maybe we're doing trivia or something like that. Or we have started to put in a little bit of some friends of ours who did a couple of doors down, just have a craft store, and they've since closed their craft store, but she does it mobily, but she does like an event here.
I think I was here one of the nights that they were doing
yeah.
that. Yes.
So we're
it
doing
was
that. Like,
packed.
yeah.
Every table was full of everyone building. I don't remember what they were. It was something for.
I think we did Halloween, we did
Yeah.
Christmas. The next one's going to be
I
Valentine's
think
Day.
it was Halloween stuff. Is what I was seeing.
and it sells out. So sometimes we'll do food trucks. Other times we'll do pizza. But like when I was at Tom Hennessy, they have a pizza, and so we learned how to do it, just like Fate North. That was the same thing. We kind of fought it, and we took the kitchen out because the plans had taken so long for it to open. So we took it off and then just slowly put it in. And I found different ways to get around requirements and a $15,000 exhaust hood and things like that for us to be able to make it. So we make pizzas 2-3 times a week. We do them on Saturdays, but sometimes we'll bring food trucks up on some of those days because my son had broken his ankle and had to have surgery. So he was out the last 6
Oh,
months.
jeez.
So it was really hard. So half the time I was like, well, he can't be back there cooking because I can't be up here by myself.
Yeah.
So, but now we're starting to bring some of the food trucks back, and on those days, and or we'll do our pizzas. But generally, we have food pretty much every day.
Because you do the pizzas in house.
yes,
Currently,
yeah.
but the food truck gives you some variety.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there a certain group of food trucks that you typily kind of return
Man,
on?
that's an
and they
entire
come in?
episode on its own.
I
But
know.
Yeah.
No, the food
It's-
truck's been. It's such a symbiotic relationship with the breweries because if you have a full kitchen then it's a restaurant.
Yes.
And you kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier. So having the symbiotic relationship with the food trucks, I think, is great because it benefits both. But there's some risk involved with some of the food trucks that maybe aren't consistent or show up or something
There
happens.
absolutely is.
And then people are coming expecting to have like that wood-fired pizza truck that JB likes.
JB's our resident foodie, so
yeah.
Right on.
I'm always like, JB, this is your, because we don't go to food trucks a lot, but he's like,
Oh
Love
yeah.
food trucks.
yeah.
And so they don't show up because they have a flat tire or something,
Yes.
and all of a sudden people come up like, well, it was on the schedule, they're not here. Like I'm not going to stay.
Yeah,
it's such a
It was very difficult early on because we were one of the first, especially in this part of town, to do food trucks when we first opened. And we were doing them Friday nights, we were doing Saturday nights, and every so often we were doing them during the middle of the week as well. And then it became a little bit of an issue trying to get them all the time because some at first used to, back in the day, they wanted like deposits or minimums, and I'm like, no, as much as I'm providing you a place to do this,
Right.
and a draw.
you should be
of
bringing a
people.
draw just as much as I've got it here for
Yeah.
you. So some people wouldn't, some people would. And then we kind of got into a good groove of a lot of these people. Okay, we like these trucks. And then we got a lot of people, I guess we're kind of known for being one of the better food truck spots for people. So they do want to come here. But we were burned so many times. And it hurts.
Initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hurts. I mean, it's a Friday night and a food truck doesn't show up. And I've heard every excuse, and generators go out, and sometimes it's like, I know these guys probably really had an issue, but then you really realize that some of these guys, what they do with a food truck is they'll take any gig because they need a day, but as soon as something better comes up,
They're gone.
they'll take that day,
Yeah.
and a lot of them won't tell you.
Jeez.
I mean, I've heard every excuse. I'm like, bullshit. And then sometimes you catch them because they promoted it on their social media, and you're like, I knew it. And so you learn, like, I'm not doing that. I'm not calling you. And then eventually they burn the bridges with a lot of people, and they come back and ask you. I'm like, no. But like, for example, I mean, by Christmas I was booked 4 months. because I know these people show up.
Yes.
They make good food.
Yeah.
I wish I could have a larger variety of the time, but I know that these people are safe and they're going to be here and they're not going to burn me.
Oh, it seems so short-sighted because if they burn that bridge, like, why would you ask them to come back?
Yeah.
It kills your business. You go with someone else that the people like that will be there. Yeah. It kind of weeds out the riffraff.
It does, yeah, because there's a
food
lot,
trucks.
and a lot of food trucks have come and gone, and some were amazing. And it's like, why did this one stop? And then how does this shitty one keep surviving?
Right.
They're more consistent.
I guess maybe they're shitty
You know what?
food.
When
I
you
don't
really
know.
need them, they show up.
Yeah,
They're
They're
there.
there.
yeah, that's true.
Damn it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, but food trucks, it is a difficult thing. But yeah, once you find your trucks, and you can really
Kind
have
of
that
repeat
good
on them
relationship
and
with
have a
them.
good schedule. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it probably you said it took about a year to kind of get them dialed in, or
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I didn't really feel comfortable because my wife used to do it early on, and I took it over about a year ago because I've got more spare time than she does to like call and hound these people, and I'm like here, and if they cancel, I'm like, no, you're dead to me now because you
absolutely.
you burned me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, nah, I'm not having it. So I'm like, I'm gonna move on to the next one because we have a lot of people that come in and try to give me their cards. I'm like, but so I'll try to pepper them in every so often, and if I see that then maybe they're getting some traction and they're steady with places and they're growing, then okay, hey, I'll give you a shot. But
Yeah.
God, a lot of them just come and go. A lot of them come and go. It's crazy how many that used to be around and aren't. But these other guys, good for them. They're still doing it.
It's crazy. I looked into starting a food truck, and like it's insane. I mean, just as the brewery, there's just so many facets, and I think a lot of people when they try to start them, they don't realize how much shit you have to have going. Like, it's not just the truck.
Yeah, and food costs are expensive, and I
Yeah,
mean, especially
that too.
now. That was a lot of thing that killed a lot of them. The food costs got so out of whack
Right.
that some of these guys just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And then our customers, we're in I wouldn't say an affluent area by any means, but we're in North Peoria.
A nice area.
So there's people that
nice.
they have money, but when they start complaining about the pricing of food on a food truck, I'm like, yeah, this is probably not the food truck for us anymore. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to do that. I mean, the last one was the lobster truck back in the day. And I
Oh, that
remember,
place was a
there
drop.
was a couple of them that we had that was really good. I'm actually still friends with the guy, but he was the Cousin's Main Lobster. They had their grand opening here. The guys from, was it Shark Tank? Mm-hmm. And those guys actually from the owners flew in and they had their grand opening. It was awesome. And they did a really good job. And then eventually he started running his numbers because he actually lived in Florida. And he's like, the hours that I work and what I make, he goes, my family's not here. I'm working $10 an hour.
Wow.
And he's like, I can't do this
not
anymore.
worth it.
So he turned the truck back over. He's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And then we had another one come in, and then they were charging like $30-some for a roll, and people were like, or $28 for a roll, and some of them were, I think one was 32, and all our customers were like, I'm not paying that. And then that guy was upset with me. We don't make enough money there. I don't think you're making enough money anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew I was right because within a year he called and said, hey, I got some open dates. I'm like, sorry, man, nobody's gonna pay that.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And it's lobster in the desert, so I mean, I know it's not cheap, but
No, but if you like to live dangerously,
yeah, exactly, yeah. It's like I've never had a sushi truck here, and I'm not really interested in doing that.
sushi douchey truck.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Oh yeah, no, not good in the food truck.
No.
Especially the summer. That's a
Yeah,
bad idea.
I wish them luck, but man,
Yeah.
in the summer it's ridiculous hot. I mean, I don't want to stand in line, but they're inside a metal box out there.
Cooking.
Yeah.
The heat, the humidity, and everything.
Yeah, and then when they're running their air conditioning, and it's still 124 degrees in there.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's bad. So I was like, yeah, they're a special breed.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. You mentioned your the Mug Club for your anniversary. That's when kind of the renewals come up.
Yeah.
So what's the waiting list, or how does that work for your members?
We started the first time we did it, I think for like 50 people, and we sold out right away. And then everybody kept wanting to join. We had a lot of regulars. So I think the next year we did it like 65, 70. And I think last year we went up to 80, and we didn't even want to do that. We've got a waiting list of people that want to be on it. But people come and go. People move away. People get divorced. People quit drinking.
They get divorced. Who keeps the Mug Club membership?
Yeah,
There's
it's funny.
custody battles.
That actually happened with one couple.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, the other guy came in one time. He's like, no. He goes, you sell that bitch's number. He was so mad. So we let people know. well ahead, because ideally I wish I could sell by like December. Everybody renews, but like we know it takes time, and then you get there. And so this year our actually anniversary. Generally, we used to do it about like this weekend, but we moved it back a week just because we wanted a little bit more time with my son being out and me being so far behind with a lot of things I need to do with beer. I was like, I just want that extra week. So we moved it back, and we're like, okay, but this year we really got ahead of it and said, hey, in December, you can start renewing your mug club. Because generally we would do it like on January, so you only had like 2.5 weeks roughly to do it.
Yeah.
But this year we gave people about 4 to 5, almost 6 weeks to do it. So majority of people have so far. We know people will show up, and and then my phone starts going off. Hey man, I'm not able to make it. I was like, dude, you've had 6 weeks.
Yeah, to figure it out.
Yeah. And so what we've decided this year is like, love you guys. I know you're my friend, and I mean, if you just want certain people, I'm like, all right, I'll save your number, but you got to do it because we've got so many people that come here on a regular basis and they're not part of the mug club and they want to really bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, so that Friday when we close, if you haven't renewed your number, it becomes available to somebody else. So generally that Saturday, people are here waiting to come in to see if they can get the number, and then people want to move around. But majority just want to get on the mug club. But we have generally about 15 to 20 people that want to do it. Some people have got on it, then dropped back off, and then got back on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but my son generally runs that. Derek runs that pretty well, and he keeps tracks. He's got the whole spreadsheet of everything like that.
How many people are in the mug club currently? What is it capped at?
We have it. I think we have it at 80, but
Okay.
number 69 is retired because he was actually a really good friend of ours, and then he quit drinking.
Okay.
So like, all right, we're just gonna retire that number for
that's
him.
nice.
And then another one of our friends, she's a huge hockey fan, so we let her have number 99. And I don't know if she's technically 81 or 80, I don't remember. But we thought about going to 100 this year, but my son's like, I don't want to do that.
Much.
Yeah, let's just keep it at 80, and we'll do that. But we know we've got like a good, easy 10 people are trying to give us the money right now just to get on that.
I mean, only 80 members in a mug club. That's a pretty exclusive group. I mean,
It is, but that's
nice.
also the benefit of doing that. And for
Right.
us, it's like you come in each day. So what we do is you get every year is a new logo and a new glass design, and so you get one glass to take home, and then you get the other one here, and it's numbered, and that's the one you drink out when you come in.
Yeah.
You've got your T-shirt. I mean, so even if it's renewals 125,
Okay.
new one is 150. So you're getting, $75 worth of swag alone, because at the end of the year, you get to take that to the glass home.
Right.
Your first beer, you come in every day, is half price.
Wow.
So, you're basically getting, 2 beers, you get one for free.
Yeah.
And then on your birthday, we can't legally give away a beer, so you get it for a penny.
Yeah.
Then we give people discounts on swag and stuff like that. And every year we're like, all right, we're going to do something special. And we have kind of dropped the ball on that, but we want to do more like that because we will be doing more canning and stuff this year. So we'll have, early releases for them to be able to get cans and stuff like that too.
So you have a canning line, or you're
Yes,
getting one?
I do. I have the canning line. Yeah, I bought the cano.
You bought
Yeah.
You must have watched that episode. Okay. I'm just curious. Yeah. Have you had a chance to run it and use it at all, or?
So I have.
Okay.
For me, it's a little more difficult because I have serving tanks, but they're all in the walk-in. Mm-hmm. I don't like being cold. I hate doing stuff in there. So even when I clean them, I disconnect them. I wheel them out in the brewery and I clean them, and then I roll them back in there. The run that it takes to go from my bright tanks to the cano has been problematic with a lot of foaming issues.
Yeah.
I've talked to Andrew about it, and we've come up with a few ideas. Marshall's come over and tried to do a couple runs with me, but honestly, I haven't ran it as much as I should have, or as much as I would have liked to. But this year, I've got 2 new fermenters that I will be able to carbonate and clarify everything in those, and then I'm going to try to do it right from there, basically kind of like how Front Porch does.
Yes.
They've got their bright right there.
Yes.
And so that's the plan with that. So
Okay.
I will be getting that online this year, and we're doing a lot more of that.
And a lot of more cans to go, because you don't have stuff.
We do
you
crawler
do
cans.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, the crawler filler.
Yeah, we do a lot of crawler
Yeah.
cans.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it is a good machine. I mean,
Yeah.
people really like it. I know a lot of breweries have them. Andrew's a good dude, and Marshall, he'll help you get it going. So.
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely invested in
Well,
that
there's
system.
a lot of job security because it's like there's no handbook, as he made very clear. It's
Yeah.
just him.
Yeah, there's no
basically,
manual.
so-
It's him.
Yeah, because I was like, one day I was like, something wasn't working right, and I was like, what is this thing sitting here? And I looked at it and like, oh, it was weird. It's like a washboard, like a razor blade. And he's like, oh, that's the blade that pushed the lid in. So he showed up and looked at it, and he came back, I think like the next thing was like a Friday night or Saturday night, and he had modified and made a new piece, and he put it in there, and he's like, okay, this is the way it's going to be from now on. And so he just figured it out and put it in there.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool to have
Yeah.
that, because if you have like somebody else's, just like, good luck. They're
Yeah.
just going to send you the
Right.
paste that broke, and then hopefully
Right.
it doesn't break again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He modified it.
Yeah.
He upgraded it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it is nice that he does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he can do that, and he's local. And then there's a lot of people. I mean, I got a call from a brewery in Tucson. There was a bunch of questions about it last week. And I've called down to another brewery in Tucson asking questions about how they operate and stuff too. And so the fact that there's so many Arizona people using it, we got questions, we can reach out to each other and do that as well.
That makes a nice little support group too.
Yeah.
To kind of help with that. Yeah. That's awesome.
And for the size of my brewery, it's perfect. It's small. It's on wheels. I can wheel it in and out.
Folds up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very smart design. And
Yeah, and that was almost the number one thing for me. I liked that.
yeah.
That works.
It's a simple design too, just as far as the mechanics of it. Like, and simpler is way better when it comes to the mechanics of that stuff because it's less likely to break, less complication.
yeah. Everybody I know that's got one, they could be temperamental for anybody.
Oh, anything
Yeah.
like that. I used to run industrial laundry, and those machines were a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
They were so temperamental. These massive machines. Oh yeah, yeah. So I get that. How I don't care how good the machine is, it sometimes can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
they're cool. I mean, they're pretty neat, especially that they're local, and the price point's good for them too.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of his mission statement was the small footprint, or the, like, keeping it small and simple, and not necessarily simple, but accessible to small breweries.
Yeah, because when I
So,
brew, I
yeah.
actually roll it out. It's usually sitting right here because I don't have the room in there for it, and I don't want to
Right.
get grain dust all over it too. So I roll it out here, so it sits here, and then the other night I roll it back inside.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. That's awesome. Well, we're excited for your anniversary. Come at the end of this month. We'll definitely have to stop by and kind of
Right
take a
on.
look at it. We appreciate you letting us come out. And,
No, I appreciate you guys
and
coming
pick
out.
your ear, and this has been fantastic.
Yeah,
We
fun.
definitely got to come back because I had so many things I wanted to ask you and talk about, but I'm like, I don't want to interrupt because I love
told
how
you I talk a
everything is
lot.
going. No, it's
No, it was like
fantastic.
it was a good story,
Yeah.
like good
Absolutely.
storytelling.
Really
Yeah.
No, we definitely appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and get out of your hair for today. We definitely want to come back. I definitely want to come take a look at your brewing stuff when you get everything kind of
Okay,
cleaned
yeah.
up and stuff. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's
So-
coming soon. I can't wait to get that thing finally cleaned up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So, thanks for tuning in, guys. Catch you later.